All right. I hope everyone is seated or planning to find their seats. That would be fantastic. Well, welcome everyone to Lunch for Literacy 2026. We are thrilled to have you all here. It means the world to us that this has become a tradition for so many. And to our new friends who are joining us for the first time, thank you so much for being here. I'd love to thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors, this event does not happen. We are grateful to Goss Gustafel Goss, Simplot, and Enterprise Mobility for being our presenting sponsors. I'd also love to thank two families who've stepped forward with very generous matching gifts. We have the Chalfont family who have donated $20,000 as a matching gift for today's fundraiser, and the Miller Family Holdings Foundation, who has donated $25,000 as a matching gift today. So this is huge. Thank you. I want to thank our media partners. Cap Ed sponsored our feature on KTVB this year, and we're very grateful for you sponsoring us for that. Also, we have Boise Dev, Idaho Press, Boise Weekly, and then we had the iconic American Cleaning sign on Front Street, courtesy of Idaho Premier Window Cleaning, so thank you. I'd also like to thank our special helpers. We have our wonderful photographer, Lynn Phillips, and Steph Localani. She is from IRL Films, and she is responsible for the amazing student video that we feature every year. So we're deeply grateful to her for creating this amazing video. And then I want to thank Albertsons. The beautiful floral arrangements at your table are courtesy of Albertsons, and they do a fantastic job. A really fun part is under every table has one Post-it under one of the saucers, and that little Post-it means that you get to take the floral arrangement home. All right, so let's go into a bit of housekeeping, some of the logistics for today. We have a text to give, which is the primary way to give today for this fundraiser. There's a Wi-Fi network that we have. So text to give, you text 41444, literacy 26, donation amount, and your name. So that is the best way to make donations. Another way is we have yellow remit envelopes on every table. Those are for if you brought a check, you can hold that up high, and we have staff watching, so they will come and grab that from you, and thank you for it. We also have a QR code on every table, and if you scan that code, it will lead you to our menu, to our program today, and then also to the online auction. We should call out that the auctions are different. We have two different auctions going on. So if you see something in the room, that is the in-room auction, and that is only here. It is not online. And if you see it online, then that's where it exists. So watch that one. The online auction doesn't close until later. After the show, you still have time to bid on things online. But if it's in person, we will have an intermission around 12:30, and then at 12:45, the auction closes. So keep your eye on that and go use that intermission to go check your auction items. The auction also has some amazing things. We have a really generous donation from AC Boise. It's a VIP pitch side experience. We have staycations, hotels, dining. We have a golf experience. We have spas. We have original artwork. So lots of really amazing things. And theater tickets, incredible. One of the other things that we do have is a mountain biking lesson from our author. She does it all. She is not only a New York Times bestselling author, but she is a certified mountain biking instructor. So you can bid on a one-of-a-kind experience with our author, tearing up the foothills on a mountain biking lesson. So be sure to bid on that too. It's my pleasure to introduce our board president. She's the AVP of Employer Partnerships at CWI. I'd love to welcome Trevi Hardy.
It is so amazing to see this room full of people. I'm always overwhelmed with this event every year, this iconic Boise event, just to see how many folks in our community come out to support this amazing organization. It fills my heart with gratitude for this community, for Boise and the surrounding area, and for all of you who do so much to keep this organization up and running and giving back to our community. You've shown up year after year, and here you are again. I wanted to take just a moment to recognize the people who are in the background year after year, every single day, past and present. These include board members, advisory council members, donors, volunteers, and all of you who come year after year to this amazing event to support the Learning Lab. To all of those of you in the role currently and past, thank you. Thank you for your time, your consistency, your expertise, and for your commitment to this organization and to our community. Serving on this board has allowed me to see the magnitude and the impact of what you all bring together for the Learning Lab. I came to this board through a back door of sorts. I have never worked for Learning Lab, but for years I have worked alongside of it. As an adult education instructor and a program coordinator, as a member of several different community organizations, I've been able to sit across the table from Learning Lab folks, from volunteers to teachers to directors, and to see the work that they do. And what I saw in them has mirrored my own experience, my own journey as an adult education instructor and advocate, and I wonder if maybe it mirrors the experience of some of you here in this room as well. I began teaching adult education several years ago, and I thought that I understood what it was my students needed from me as a teacher. I had curriculum, I had a degree, I had good intentions, and I had my Harbrace College Handbook rules for commas. So I figured I had it all. But what I soon realized is that I did not have a clear understanding of what the students brought to the classroom and what they'd bring to me and the impact that they would have on my life. I soon came to understand that being a teacher means becoming part of a community that you are invited into. I was invited into celebrations, to meals, to the edges of people's lives and into their families. And it wasn't something that I could have anticipated, but my own neighborhood, my community became so much larger. Exposure to lives, experiences, and ways of being a neighbor that I never would have encountered within my own circle of experiences truly enriched my life. And that's what I see happening at Learning Lab. The volunteers who show up week after week often say they got something that they didn't anticipate, a new friendship, a new way of seeing their own neighborhood, and a relationship that didn't really fit neatly into helper and helped. That is an experience that I hope for every one of you in this room today, and I know that many of you have had through your relationship and your commitment to the Learning Lab. I want to introduce the person who is going to come and tell you now exactly what it is that Learning Lab does, about the amazing people that it serves, and why Learning Lab matters. This is a person who holds this organization's past and future at the same time, and that is not an easy task. Kristen Livingstone leads Learning Lab with deep respect for the people who built this organization. They're the directors, the board members, the volunteers, and the supporters who came before us and whose work we are building on. Kristen carries forward with intention and care and with a clear vision for where Learning Lab is going next. Kristen spends a lot of time listening. She listens to you. She listens to the volunteers, to the donors, to the board members, and to the students, to our community. And she leads from what she learns in her listening. I am so grateful to serve alongside her, and I know that you will understand in just a moment. So please welcome Kristen Livingstone.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you all so much for being here. Trevi, thank you so much for those very kind words. I appreciate it. Unless I'm in a meeting, my office door, it remains open, and I sit right next to the front door of our Garden City site. And on Tuesday mornings, this mom and young daughter come up to the front door. And Osama, who sits at our front desk, he pauses before he opens the door. And he does that because he knows that the little girl wants to ring the doorbell. And once he opens that door, he says, "Good morning." And the mother, she bows her head slightly and she smiles shyly. But this little girl, oh my gosh, she kind of squares her shoulders and then she takes off running and laughing down the hallway. And now she stops at my office door and she models her outfit every day and she waits until I ooh and ah appropriately before she launches herself off again. And I know that she has made it to her classroom because I hear a demand for bubbles and then squeals of joy when the machine turns on. Her mother always walks calmly down the hallway, but you can see that she smiles a little bit bigger when her daughter is settling into class. And later, that same mom, she often chooses the study space that's directly across from my office. And so I get to hear her tutoring sessions. And sometimes they're quiet and they're focused. And sometimes when she's paired in a small group, they erupt into laughter. One time, they all discovered that they had different phrases for "the grass is always greener." "My neighbor's chicken is a goose." "Other people's rice cakes are bigger." And in that moment, those students and that tutor, they all recognized something familiar in one another. And it was just a regular Tuesday. Learning Lab, oh, can you see my slides? You can, great. Learning Lab is an adult and family literacy center. We provide free personalized education to more than 500 students every year. And our neighbors come to us to learn English, to earn their GED, and to prepare for the citizenship exam. And if they have young children, they just bring them. Because while they're studying, their little ones are working on their early literacy skills down the hall. It's 2 generations in one building. And when someone walks through our front doors, they aren't met with barriers. The classes are free, and we ask a really simple but powerful question. What is your goal? And then we listen to their hopes, we listen to their dreams, and our team of educators creates an individualized plan to get them there. And then with the help of more than 300 volunteer tutors, we're able to do that week after week. And that Tuesday morning I described, it isn't unusual. It happens again on Wednesday and on Thursday. And it's that when someone sits next to someone else from a different culture and they help each other learn their verbs, or when they laugh over shared sayings that sound different but mean the same thing, when they study for a test after working hard all day, there's something steady that's built, and that steadiness ripples outward. Because when a mother can attend a parent-teacher conference confidently, when a father gets his commercial driver's license, when an 80-year-old woman can call our office and say, "I want to learn how to read before I die," and she reads a book for the first time, that doesn't just change one life. It strengthens our families, it strengthens our workplaces, and it strengthens this community. Learning Lab was built by a handful of women who saw a need. And for a little while, that work happened in one building and served a small group of our neighbors. But today, Learning Lab operates across 5 locations and virtually. We are meeting our students in libraries, schools, workplaces, and community spaces across Boise. And 2 years ago, I stood here on the stage. I was new, I was very nervous. And I told all of you guys that our wait list wouldn't stop growing and we needed your help. And in the last 2 years, we have been able to increase our capacity by over 30%. And that's because of you. It's because of this community stepping forward. And that local commitment then and now is what allows Learning Lab to remain steady, to remain a place of welcome, a place of dignity, and a place where hope feels practical. Next week, a student will walk through our front doors. She will likely pause. She may square her shoulders. She may take a breath. At some point, she will probably wonder if she's too old or too behind or too late. But because of all of you here right now, we will get to say you are exactly on time. Because whether you give an hour of tutoring, $25, $250, or $25,000, every gift today says to our neighbors that you belong here, your dreams matter, and you are exactly on time. And there are more than 700 of us in this room right now choosing to make sure that Learning Lab can continue saying that as we move through this next year. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being here, and thank you for choosing to support Learning Lab. It is now my pleasure, and it is my hope that you will help me welcome to the stage Candy Alphin, who will introduce the recipient of this year's Anna Margaret Jones Legacy Award for Enduring Commitment. Either one, yeah.
Kristen, just so you know, we all still wonder if we're too old, too behind, and too late. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to be here to introduce my good friend, Kathy Winterton, this year's recipient of the Anna Margaret Jones Award. And her family is right here in front of us. Let me tell you about my friend Kathy. She's from Salt Lake originally, where she began her banking career as a wee child. She accepted a career opportunity that brought her to Boise very early on in her career. She is a banking veteran, having spent over 4 decades assisting banking clients, many of whom are her long-term friends now. She has been admired by her banking colleagues, and she is considered to be the go-to expert by many of them. And in her various and diverse roles at U.S. Bank and its predecessor banks, she has always been a top performer, someone with whom we all want to collaborate. She has this really unique ability. She's a great listener, and she's really able to connect with people. You've heard about people who have a high emotional IQ and are able to read people. Well, that's Kathy. At the same time, she has this wicked sense of humor. And one year, I can remember where she pulled a practical joke on a colleague. She planned it for 2 years. Did I let you know this is also a bit of a roast? She's smart, successful, witty, and very generous. So let's talk about her generosity. She's always helped others in very thoughtful ways. For decades, she spent time with her elderly neighbors, Eric and Eileen, on a weekly basis, taking them home-cooked dinners and spending time with them. And speaking of her cooking, she is an amazing cook, but she's really selfish in sharing her recipes. She has a mean lasagna, and I asked her for over 10 years to get the recipe for her wonton salad. I'm not bitter at all about that. And she's also been published in a cookbook, but that's a whole nother story. She's an amazing community volunteer. She got to know about the Learning Lab through her volunteer work with the Junior League of Boise. Shout out to the Junior League. I know there's some members here today. She became a volunteer at the Learning Lab. She served as a board member for over 8 years. She chaired the board in 2010, and she served on the advisory board for 5 years. Not only that, but Kathy has spent decades working with Ballet Idaho and the Children's Hospital at St. Luke's. And in fact, for the last several years, she's volunteered on Christmas Day to help children's families in the hospital so that the kids could have the best Christmas experience possible. Kathy's highly organized. She loves a great spreadsheet and sticky notes. I'm sure she has some sticky notes in her pocket today. But most importantly, Kathy is true to her family and friends. She's steadfast, honest. She doesn't sugarcoat. She's someone you can always trust to tell the truth. She has a very large family in the Salt Lake area. She has 16 nieces and nephews and 22 great nieces and nephews. She had a great relationship. She was particularly close with her father, Dick Winterton. He was a long-haul truck driver, and because of that, Kathy believes she is the best driver in the world. She takes great pride in her parallel parking ability. Her sister, Shalise, was not able to join us today, but she lives in Salt Lake, and Kathy, she wanted me to let you know that your necklace looks great. Kathy lives with her beloved Honeybee, her second rescue dog from the Humane Society. Honeybee's a tripod who lost a leg prior to being adopted by Kathy, but she doesn't let that slow her down. She's very active on social media. She has her own Facebook page. It's a really great honor to be befriended by Honeybee. Kathy is someone who others gravitate to because of her ability to connect, her great sense of humor, her genuine curiosity about people, and her caring nature. Kathy is truly worthy. Let's congratulate her on being the 2026 honoree and the recipient of the Anna Margaret Jones Award.
Well, I wasn't sure what Candy would have to say, and so I have 3 thank yous to her. So, Candy, thank you for reading every word I said and not sharing at the time that I accidentally went to hot yoga. The second one is, thank you for being here, but your sponsor called from Liars Anonymous, and the meeting is at 3. And the third choice is the nicer one, which is thank you for returning from your snowbird life, where this year's hole-in-one is waiting for you. So thanks for coming in from California. Today we gather to talk about literacy and celebrating it, and I can't be more honored to win. It feels like a winner. Really, I do feel like this is a Lifetime Achievement Award. But to be honored by the Anna Margaret Award, her family, again, is down here with her 3 fierce and loving daughters and the family that continues on, Anne-Marie Goss, Patty Head, and Jeannie King. When Kristen Livingstone contacted me, my immediate response was, truly, I did grab an imaginary pearl necklace. I'm like, I just can't believe it. And then she asked me, well, when we met, she said, what's your connection? How is it? And really, I became quite emotional. People stared, and so I've worked on this, and I'm really proud to tell you some of the reasons why. So the first one is in the early 90s. I became aware of the Learning Lab. There was a lady named Brenda that I knew socially. She worked for US Bank. She was a teller supervisor, and she went to her manager and said, hey, my second grader, I'm struggling with his homework, and I need help. There's a program at the library, but it's 2 hours a day, 3 times a week, and I'll come in early, I'll stay late. And he said, we'll make that work, but how did you get to be a supervisor? This was before email, and so new policies would come out, and she'd make a copy, and she'd hand one to every teller and say, okay, what do you read? And will you read the next part? And what did you learn? And how will this impact our clients? How will that impact the bank? So she interviewed and gathered information. She was in the first graduating class of the Learning Lab in 1993. Yeah, she's amazing. That same year, Barbara Bush, who was a leader for literacy early on, that was her format, or not the format, you know the word I'm looking for. And so anyway, I think there was a picture that might be put back up. I got to meet Barbara, and I think we were wearing the same shoes. It looked like it. She was lovely. Anyway, it was very nice, and she came in. The year after that, I joined the Junior League, partially because of Candy Alphen and other great women in this room. And as Candy mentioned, the Junior League, in addition to the Learning Lab, starting the Learning Lab, they also started the Discovery Center of Idaho. Legacy projects, and in 2028, they'll celebrate their 100th year, which is amazing. The part of being with the Junior League, you volunteered 2 shifts at the Learning Lab, working with students. And with those students, the one that made the impact for me the most was a lady who was learning the letter P. And we looked in a textbook, and she identified things that started with the letter P: puppy, present, pen, purple. And I asked her, and I said, how do you fill forms out at the doctor's office? How do you, and she said, oh, my husband has to take off of work, and we go, and he comes and fills it out. So that was an economic impact. But I thought about how much that limited her life and everyone else's life. So for her, even going to the store, and when you go to check out, you go, do you want to add $1? Do you want this? Do you want to use your points? I think it limits so many people, and I will tell you, not a day goes by that I don't think about her. Okay, this next part. The reason, if you want to know why, so this is where you go, thanks to the Miss Great Carly Simon, you probably think this song is about you. Well, yes, I do. So, like most 6th graders, I was focused on Bonnie Bell lip smackers, and my favorite was the watermelon flavor. And would Gee, Your Hair Smells Terrific shampoo really bring all the boys to my yard? And one of the other things that we would do is, we would all share books. But I was not a strong reader, and so as we would share books, I'd say, oh, I'll go last. And it took a long time for me to find out why. 8 years later, I was in the 2nd year of University of Utah, and I was working with a tutor. And they identified that I was reading the textbooks out loud. In my brain, it went at the speed of reading out loud, and it slowed my progress. But by learning that, I changed the way I read, I changed the way I thought, and it changed the trajectory of my life. Because of that, I always feel for the people at the Learning Lab. So now you can see why I think it's a Lifetime Achievement Award. I'd like to acknowledge US Bank, where, yes, I've been there for almost 42 years, and yes, I did start in a long time ago before labor laws. But US Bank always supports their employees and the things that's important to them. In the last 20 years, US Bank has given over $80,000 in grants just to the Learning Lab. They also have matched my donations dollar for dollar, which I support, which I love. I'm so grateful. And they've always bought a table, and I think I've been to every single one except for one in all of the years. So from me to you, thank you for being here today to support the Learning Lab. It's where people's journeys are brave, and every act is hope and action, and every one of us can be a light for someone else's path. So thank you for sharing my day today. I'm very grateful.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Panich, and I am the Program Director for Learning Lab. Thank you for allowing me to be here today and for the honor of introducing you to this year's recipients of the Gemma Van Hole Award for Student Excellence. I am delighted to share with you that this year is the very first time Learning Lab has selected an entire family to receive this award. Hamid, Manal, Mohammed, Zachariah, Sarah, Omar, and Sanabel. Each member of this family exemplifies the spirit of Learning Lab and shows us the importance of and the possibilities that come with multi-generational literacy. In just a moment, I will ask the Bilals to join me on stage to accept their well-deserved recognition, but first we will share a beautiful video with you so that you all get to know this inspiring family and to see firsthand the impact your donations have on our community.
When a parent enrolls in our family literacy program, they come with a vision for a brighter future for themselves and their family. At Learning Lab, we see parents as central to that future, and we walk beside them as they learn and build it.
I am Manal. My husband, Hamid. My son, Muhammad. My son, Zakaria. My son, Omar. My daughter, Sarah. My daughter, Sanat.
When we move to United States, I hope that the peace for my family. I hope that looking for a good job for me. I hope that they will relax. I hope that my sons and daughter, my children, give a new future and good future for them. This is my goal. My job now is as get the truck driver. I got it. I'll see my CDL. After I go to Learning Lab, I study English. After that, I go to DMV. I make the test with all English. I pass it. After that, I go to school, truck driver school. Yes, I pass it also.
My mom surprised me when I started to tutor her because what I know about her, she can't read. So she surprised me when she read the whole sentence. I said, "What? You can read?" And I didn't know that because I was with my dad. And my dad, he is good, but my mom now doing better and better and better.
In families, learning is shared. When parents invest in their own education, their children often begin to imagine what's possible for themselves.
So I was 18 years old when I moved to USA. It was difficult for me to lead my friends, my neighbor, my school. So, but that was a good adventure for me. Yeah, it's worth because I learned English here. So now I have much chances to do what I want.
My name is Z. I'm 18 years old. I came here when I was 16 years old, studied high school, and I finished there. One of my hobbies was soccer, and then I was being famous, being rich. I like that. So I worked on it a little bit, played with Boise High, soccer for a little bit. Then I got picked by Cortland Timbers, and now I'm in the process with that.
When learning takes root, it often grows into something more. Learners become helpers, and gratitude turns into giving. One lesson supports a parent supports their family, and their family strengthens the community around them.
So when I was at Learning Lab this summer, they really helped me learn more English than I knew. And probably my favorite part was helping the babies.
Because I start my new job as a driver truck, I decided when I receive the first check for me, I will donation for Learning Lab.
Learning Lab gave me a great feelings to be helpful for a community because this community helped me bring me from Jordan to give me a lot of opportunities. So I have to be helpful for it. So yeah. And I was volunteer in Boise Bicycle Project because I had English, and some people doesn't have enough English. So when I help these people, I feel, oh my God, finally I'm helpful.
At Learning Lab, education is about seeing potential and supporting people as they grow. When our neighbors are given the tools to move forward, they don't just change their own lives, they strengthen their families and our entire community.
Manal, AKA the mom, was unable to join us today, but let's please welcome the rest of the Bilal family. Hamid would like to say a few words. Save some of this applause. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hamid, and I'm very happy to stand here today. I would like to say thank you to Learning Lab, our wonderful teachers, tutors, and all the donors who support us. Because of you, we had the chance to learn English and improve our lives. Learning was not easy, but with your help, we did not give up. We studied, practiced, and support each other. Today, we are proud of ourselves. This is not the end. It is a new beginning for us. Thank you for believing in us. God bless you. God bless America. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. Oh, is this on? Yes, it is. That's incredible. Thank you so much. There are so many amazing stories at Learning Lab, and much like this story, we have incredible community, and all of you are a part of that community. So thank you so much for being here. We have a text to give. So if you feel so inclined, please do. Please join us, and we also have the remit envelopes on the tables if you do have a check and you'd like to donate that way. In addition to the story you just heard, there are so many other stories of good. Just to have a glimpse inside the classrooms, one of my favorite stories is a student came in and triumphantly declared that she went to the dentist recently. To a lot of us, it's just something we schedule in between errands. But for her, she was so proud because she did not need a translator. So this was independence, and this was her, it's freedom and independence to do something for herself. Another story that I really love is a woman was coming in to take English classes, and her children, she had raised them. She'd been in the United States for about 15 years. And she had seen her children through successfully to high school and college. And as she was taking her exams to discover her skill level, she broke down and started crying. And it's not because the test was hard, it's because she was so overwhelmed that it's finally her turn. After giving everything she had to her children and making sure that they were okay, now it's her turn to learn. So that's incredibly moving, and another favorite that really demonstrates the community that we have. his gentleman, a retiree, he got a call from a neighbor who said that there was someone in their neighborhood, a young mother, who had been accepted into classes at Learning Lab, and she was so excited to start, but transportation was a huge issue. So she did not have a way to get to classes. So this gentleman decided, well, why not me? So he drives this woman and her 2 children every day to class, and I've seen them in the parking lot. He picks them up, and then he carries the baby carrier and follows behind the mother with her toddler very carefully, and then sets the baby carrier down, gets everyone set up, says goodbye, and then comes back 2.5 hours later every day to make sure that she can get to class and her family can come with her. So 2 unlikely friends who would never have crossed paths, and that's what Learning Lab does. It connects all of us, and it's this sense of community that we hold so dear. Speaking of community, I would love to introduce someone who I'm proud to have in my personal community of friends. His name is Doug Ward. He is the commercial market president at First Interstate Bank.
Thank you, Jenny. This event I've been to, it was actually, I was taking a look at it a couple days ago, and this is the 15th year I've attended. And the first time I attended, I actually got invited to the table from one of my friends, and based on the timing of the invite, it sounds like there's probably a last-minute cancellation. But once I was able to kind of see and listen and learn about the program, that became an annual tradition, and I took that invite as a standing invite. So he's still stuck with me at the table today. But this is an incredible organization, and you can see it in these videos and everything here, and none of it would be possible without the staff, the volunteers, and then all the support that everyone gives here. So on behalf of First Interstate Bank, we will be donating $10,000 to the Learning Lab today. So we appreciate everything, and I know Jenny won't let me off the stage unless I remind everybody to donate and bid on the auction items. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Doug. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, First Interstate Bank. All right, let's check our thermometers and see where we're at. This is a huge boost to our totals. Oh, look at that. Okay, I think this means our matching gifts can kick in. Let's see if our Wizard of Oz can get this going here. So we have the Chalfant family's $20,000 and the Miller family's $25,000 in matching gifts. Woo! Very nice. That is exciting. So thank you so much to the Miller family and Chalfant family for your matching gifts. Thank you to everyone here for all of these contributions. Every dollar matters. It's a very big deal to someone. $25 is a GED textbook. Every dollar counts. So thank you so much if you're able to give little or $25, $25,000. Every single dollar matters. We are going to take a quick intermission, and if you're watching any of the auction items, the auction will close at 12:45. So please do go check on those, and we will see you back here shortly.
When a student comes to the Learning Lab, it doesn't help just them. There is a long-term positive impact on the entire family.
I can't think of any other organization that I would recommend to people to say, if you can't read and you don't quite know how to fit into the community, you can go to the Learning Lab and they will find a place for you.
When you meet somebody and you have no idea that they were a client of the Learning Lab, to me, that is success.
So a majority of the students that attend the Learning Lab are not able to afford the education on their own. So the Learning Lab heavily relies on donations. It's an investment in our community.
The Learning Lab does an excellent job at stretching their dollars and getting the most important results for the funds that you give them.
One of the things that we're all who've been involved with the lab for all these years is we realize that people have a choice when it comes to giving money to nonprofits. And we're very grateful that people have chosen to support the lab all these years.
We need financial support, we need volunteers, many volunteers, and we just need the support of the community as a whole.
Learning Lab, whether you're rich or poor, will support you.
You're not just learning skills, but you're also gaining a family.
Learning Lab helps people help themselves.
If the support and give money, they help us, and the same way we can help the community.
Let's check on our thermometer one last time. This is pretty exciting, everybody. The generosity in this room is amazing. Thank you so very much. This is outstanding. I should announce that Roberta Hansberger has given $25,000 just now, so thank you so very much. This makes such a massive impact on our students, and it means the world. So it's my pleasure to introduce this year's guest author speaker. Her name is Kim Cross, and she is a New York Times best-selling author. And she is a leader in the narrative nonfiction genre, which means she weaves stories together that are true stories with journalistic integrity, but in a way that feels like you're reading a page-turning fiction. And I went to go see her speak at Boise State, and she spoke to a group of aspiring writers. And afterward, she addressed each one of them when they came up to speak with her, with such care and compassion and warmth. And then she had everyone sit in a circle and contribute to the conversation, and it was just really inspiring, and we knew we had to have her come speak. She is an outstanding person and also a professional mountain bike instructor, so remember that, and I can't wait to see who got that auction item. But please welcome Kim Cross.
Clickers here. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Before we start, I want if you're a teacher or a volunteer or a tutor, I would love for you to stand. Thank you. And if you're a mother, I would love for you to raise your hand. Raise your hand if you're a mom. You get applause too. I'm here because of y'all. I'm a writer because when I was in high school, one of my teachers, Miss Ivanchik, Miss E, noticed that I liked to write and said, would you be interested in doing an internship at the local paper? And I said, what's an internship? And I got my first 4 published clips at my local paper, and that set me ahead on this journey. And my mother never tried to talk me out of becoming a writer. My dad was my first editor, and so he was my first teacher. I want to dedicate tonight to teachers and mothers because you do so much for so many people, and especially the Learning Lab. So I'm Kim Cross, and I want to tell you about this book, and I want to tell you why this is so special to me to be speaking to you in my hometown of Boise. So I just lost my mother in December, and one of the last things we did was we took her to Alabama, where we used to live, and took her to a wedding. And while we were there, we visited the University of Alabama, my alma mater, 2 times over, taught there, won some awards there, and we wanted my son, who just turned 18, to see a big SEC school. And one of her last wishes is we were walking through the library and she wanted to see my book, which is about Tuscaloosa and includes students at the University of Alabama. And we went and we couldn't find it, and we asked a librarian, and they said, oh, it looks like we had a copy and it was stolen in 2017 and we never replaced it. So I like to think that I'm making it up to her by sharing this book with all of you here. So, What Stands in a Storm is a narrative nonfiction account of the biggest tornado outbreak on record. It happened in 2011, on April 27, 2011, was the biggest day of a 3-day outbreak that unleashed 349 tornadoes over 21 states from Texas to New York. A lot of people don't remember this storm because it was chased in the news cycle by one tornado that hit Joplin, Missouri, and then Osama bin Laden was assassinated. And so a lot of people didn't know about this, but I lived in Alabama at the time. I had a 4-year-old son who's sitting in the corner, wave Austin. He was 4, and I remember that day knowing that the weather was going to be bad. And we went to our laundry room because we didn't have a basement. And we put bike helmets on, and we got our dog and a mattress, and we were watching on our phone a meteorologist who warns everyone in Alabama when there's bad weather. And I remember he called out our neighborhood, and we could see on a sky cam a huge tornado heading basically toward our house. And I looked at my son and I held him and I thought, what do you say to your child if it might be the last thing he hears you say? And everyone in Alabama who was in the path of the storm that day remembers that and felt that. So I'm going to start with a little video clip that puts you as close as I've ever been to the eye of a tornado.
Ya estamos aquí, ya está tomando todo. Viene para acá. ¡Hey! ¡Alberto, bájate! ¡Bájate, güey! ¡Bájate, güey! Mira, metido aquí, güey.
You'll notice that things are moving from right to left, and then it shifts. And that's how you know that's they go one way and then they go the other. That's the front wall and the back wall. So I tell everyone, though, What Stands in a Storm is not a book about tornadoes. It's a book about people who weather the unthinkable and lift each other up. People like these two gentlemen, father and son, who I met in Mississippi in a small town called Smithville that had been devastated by an EF5, the largest of all tornadoes. They had driven up from Texas. They didn't know anyone in Smithville. They loaded their pickup truck with gasoline and water and chainsaws. And I was interviewing a pastor who had been in a church that was leveled. And they said, "Excuse us, sorry to interrupt, but where should we go to help?" And they just wanted to be pointed in a direction to go help. And this happened all over the South. At the time, I was a travel editor at Southern Living, which is a magazine that's kind of like the older sister of Sunset. 16 million readers, the kind of magazine that 3 generations will subscribe to. We did not cover news or tragedy, but we had a new editor who said, this happened in our backyard. So in Alabama, 62 tornadoes touched down in one day, and all around us was devastation. And our editor said, this is our Katrina. This is our 9/11. We need to tell this story, but what do we do? In the magazine world, the soonest you can get a story into print is 4 months after you actually turn in the copy. And so I was one of the few people on staff who wasn't a subject matter expert in gardens or cooking or homes. And everyone swiveled and looked at me and said, what do we do? And for some reason, I just felt this, I got this. So I was put in charge of the coverage and trying to find what story can we tell that's still going to be relevant 4 months later, and that readers of Southern Living, a lifestyle magazine, are going to care to read. They don't like reading about sad things. And so we dispatched photographers and writers into the contiguous states, which were all badly hit, and I sent them out with a question. Look for the ways people cope. When bad things happen, how do we cope? And how, since we're Southern Living, how do Southerners cope uniquely in a tragedy? And the result was this story. I co-wrote it with Rick Bragg, who you might know is the author of All Over But the Shoutin'. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning Alabama author. This was his street, by the way. On one end of his street, houses were okay, and on the other end, bodies were being pulled out. We found that there were 3 common themes, and that these themes are actually kind of universal to anyone who's ever been through a tragedy, whether it was a tornado outbreak, or a flood, or a wildfire, or divorce, or a sickness. And the first of those was faith. In Alabama, it's a place where there's a lot of people of faith, a lot of churches. And we found that people turned to faith first in a tragedy. First, to get through it, just get through it. And then after the tragedy, to make sense of things that are senseless. And in the wake of the storm, it was so interesting because there's a lot of different churches in the South. They don't all get along, but I saw churches setting up tents side by side in the parking lot, and the Catholics were hanging out with the Southern Baptists, and they were sharing water, and they were all getting along. And so it was an example of how the storm that tore walls down that sheltered us also tore down some of the walls that divided us. This is Pastor Wes. I'll tell you about him in a minute. The second theme was food. And I feel like this is universal, not just Southern, though Southerners do it in a special way. Sometimes when something bad happens, you feel like there's nothing you can do to make it better, but people still gotta eat. So we found that, even if you couldn't run a chainsaw or drag boards or carry branches, you could feed people who needed to do those things. And so food came out of the woodworks. Just in this photo, the woman with the cake, that was Rita Mae Troll, and she went to her church and said, I need cakes. I need cakes for these people. And 17 cakes appeared at her house. The family in the bottom left, they had a Mexican restaurant in Valonia, Arkansas. They just opened their doors and started feeding everyone for free. The man in the top left, he had a barbecue grill that he had to tow with a pickup truck, and he drove it to Smithville and found a flat place on the side of the road to park it, and he just started flipping burgers and feeding people. And as a journalist, I remember going there with a photographer, and people would try to feed us, and we'd be like, no, we're not, we're not tornado victims, we're not even volunteers, we're just journalists, we don't deserve your food. They would not let us leave without a burger and an ice cold Coca-Cola because it made them feel better. And that's one of the themes of this talk is that, when your world is in shambles and you want to feel better, helping someone is one of the best things to do that. And then the third theme was fellowship. And this was my favorite because it was such a big category, and into it fell things all along the spectrum, from a guy in New Jersey donated a trailer for someone in Mississippi he had never met. He bought this person a trailer because he heard someone had lost their house. It included a woman in Hackleburg that had been destroyed. Little girls in the South love hair bows, and this woman made hair bows for Hackleburg. It included a photographer who offered free portrait sessions to families whose memories were stolen by the wind. And so nothing was too big or too small to give, and that was beautiful. One of my favorite stories was the story of this memory quilt, which flew over 2 counties, 75 miles, and landed in the field of a woman named Leah, who saw it and saw that someone had made this quilt with iron-on photos that told the story of a life from a baby to a graduation picture. And there had a first name and a middle name, Carrie Lynn, no last name. And she thought, this means something to someone. I need to find them and give it back. So she posted a picture of the quilt on a Facebook group called Things Found After the Tornado. And people were picking photos and bills and all sorts of things out of their azalea bushes and posting it on this Facebook group to try to get it back to the owners. And someone, Carrie Lynn, had lost her house, had lost power, but someone who knew her saw it and connected them. And I got to be there when the 2 families met to return the quilt. And it was so special because here were 2 families that never would have met, 2 different socioeconomic backgrounds, 2 different towns, and they were coming together for this beautiful moment where they hugged and they gave something back. I don't know if they're still friends today, but it was a moment of how this horrible thing brought people together in beautiful ways, often across pretty big chasms. So at Southern Living, we put this story out and didn't know how it was gonna do, but it won some awards, which was encouraging, but it also got letters. And usually at Southern Living, we would only get letters if someone was upset, if they saw particularly a couple in a photo at a bed and breakfast and they weren't wearing wedding rings. That's when we got letters. So these readers, 100+ readers, wrote us letters, some of them handwritten, some of them this 24-year-old college student writing a handwritten letter, and they all shared this theme. They were like, well, first of all, they're like, this is the first time in 30 years I've ever cried reading Southern Living. But a lot of them said, this made me proud to be Southern. Or, me too. I saw this in my neighborhood after a fire or after a flood. I saw beautiful things come from our brokenness. And so that kind of became the theme of the story. And because of these letters, I started looking around, is there a book written about a tornado outbreak? Is there a perfect storm or an Isaac storm written about tornadoes? And there wasn't. So I saw an opportunity to turn this into a book. And I very intelligently quit my job to write this book. In the story, this is one of the spreads. This is a photo of Holt, Alabama, which was on the outskirts of Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa, you might know, is the home of the Crimson Tide, University of Alabama. And Holt was flattened, and it was like a giant weed whacker had come through and knocked every tree and every house down. Strangely, there was one building that was still standing, and it was a church. And it had 3 windows broken, first by people breaking into the church to shelter from the storm, and then by people breaking in for triage to take wounded people there. It looked like the first Monopoly house put down on a flat board. And so we took this photo, we ran copy over it, and it went out to the world. Lo and behold, a reader, an expat from Tennessee who lived in Holt, England, read Southern Living, and he saw this picture, he saw the caption, Holt, Alabama, and he said, we ought to do something. So he got his church, this little medieval church in Holt, Alabama, to do a fundraiser. And they sang Southern spirituals. I wish I could have been there to hear that. They auctioned off a quilt, and they raised $2,000 for Holt, but they called it Holt to Holt, heart to heart. And I thought, this is the power of a story. Stories I have always believed are empathy machines, and they can actually move people to take action. And isn't that cool that this one photo, not even the story, but the photo inspired a town to help another town thousands of miles away? So this event was a 3-day outbreak, and there were multiple rounds on the worst day was April 27th. There were 3 rounds. This is a map. It's actually incomplete data, but you can see how hard hit Alabama was. So of the 349 tornadoes, 324 deaths, and of those, 252 died in Alabama. That's a lot of people. I don't know anyone in Alabama that doesn't remember this storm. Here's a better diagram on the National Weather Service page. The upper arrow is a town called Cordova, and it is a small town with a volunteer fire department. I learned through this book that most of our fire departments are run by volunteers who are unpaid, and they do this because they enjoy it and because it's a community service. This town was hit twice in one day. It was hit by a morning tornado that was, I think, an EF3. That tornado devastated the small downtown, and it knocked out power, and it destroyed part of the fire station and knocked out a lot of the technology that people needed to warn and respond to the tornado. It ended up being kind of lucky because in the afternoon, an EF4 came through, a really big one, and because of the morning storm, the downtown was vacant because it had been destroyed, no one was there. So a lot more people would have died. 4 people died, but it would have been dozens or more. The bottom arrow is Tuscaloosa. In this, as I was researching this to tell the story, I couldn't tell every story of every person who died and every town that was hit. Every person deserved a story to be told. Every person had a story, but I had to choose. I chose Tuscaloosa and Cordova because they were hit simultaneously, and a meteorologist was having to warn people in 2 different towns at the same time without confusing them that a tornado was headed straight for them. And also because the stories were very touching, and because I think a small town and a big city have very different stories. Tuscaloosa has a professional fire department with many stations, and Cordova had volunteers. Some of those volunteers were hit, their houses were hit themselves. So here is what meteorologists saw. If you don't know how to read a radar screen, which I didn't when I started my research, each of those red and orange blotches is a supercell. That means a sign of rotation, a mesocyclone rotating, and those supercells can spawn long-form tornadoes that stay on the ground for 100 miles. They can be a mile wide or bigger, and everything in their path tends to get destroyed. And so you can see, if you're a meteorologist, you need to warn people who are about to get hit, but there's also storms backing up behind it. So the weather tends to move from southwest to northeast, and so the work that was done by meteorologists on this day was pretty remarkable. In the book, you get to learn a little bit about the science of severe weather. You get to see which myths can be busted. But I like to sprinkle the science in like veggies on a pizza so you don't really know you're learning it. This is what it looked like in sped up. So that's the morning round. It went through, there were a couple of really big ones, and then there was a lull. The atmosphere was literally boiling. The midday round was lighter, and then the devastating afternoon round happened, and there were tornadoes until 9:30 at night. It was unrelenting. So something like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Here's what we saw.
Oh my goodness. Look at that. Are you kidding me? Look at all the stuff flying around up there. That's coming over near Interstate 359 in Skyland. Nobody should be out there. This thing is going to be coming basically right down Skyland Boulevard.
So that's what I was watching with my family on our TV before the power went out. That is Tuscaloosa, and we had lived in Tuscaloosa when I was recently a grad student, and so we knew exactly where that was, and we were watching this live. There's a sky cam, and going, oh my gosh, we're watching people die. It was terrifying. That same supercell headed straight for our house. Now, this is what Tuscaloosa looked like. The damage path was 1.5 miles wide in parts, and all of those little blue dots, those are tarps where roofs had been torn away. You can see that building, that's the hospital. You can see the damage path in front of it. People were walking to the hospital faster than they could have gotten there in an ambulance. It's a miracle that it didn't hit the hospital. It would have been really bad. The hospital saw something like 800 or 900 people that day. Another view from the ground zero of the hospital, you can see it was, the common cliche is it looked like a bomb went off. This is a map of the fatalities as the tornado passed through Tuscaloosa. It's headed from the bottom left corner to the top right. And when if you've read the book, I think it's chapter 17, when the tornado comes into town, it was written with the aid of this map. And as it came through town, it knocked out the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, several of the fire stations, the EMA building. It basically handicapped Tuscaloosa responders by taking out a lot of equipment they needed to use to respond. And in the wake of it, the search for bodies went on for days. The red arrow is the football stadium of the University of Alabama. The green arrow is the hospital, and the orange arrow is the house that contained 3 college students who, I researched all 252 people who died in the storm and thought, like, who should I choose to tell this story? Because I can't tell everyone's story. And this is who I chose. Sorry if you haven't read the book. I wrote it in such a way that you don't know, you meet characters and you don't know who makes it and who doesn't. So this is a little bit of a spoiler. But Danielle Dellens was 24. She was about to graduate with a degree in social work. She wanted to work and help Air Force families who had to deploy and go through a lot of transitions. And she was working 2 jobs and was just a hardworking, caring person who really looked out for other people. Her roommate, Lauren Brown, was 21. She was going through to a different college, but about to transfer to the University of Alabama. She wanted to be a sports broadcaster. And then Will and Lauren had just started dating, and Will was Danielle's friend from their small town. He was a 3-sport athlete, and he was about to graduate on a baseball scholarship from Stillman College, which was a historically Black university that had given him a scholarship. And so he came over to look after the girls because he knew it was going to get bad, and so he thought he would come and weather the storm with them. So Danielle, these are just examples of pictures of Danielle with her family. She had a little sister named Michelle. Michelle was taller, but she called Danielle my big little sister, and they were very, very close. Danielle was just the quintessential big sister, always, standing up to bullies, looking out for her little sister, taking care of other people. And Michelle was kind of the shyer, quieter one. Lauren was a cowgirl, horseback rider. These pictures were taken on Easter, where a lot of girls in the South wear white dresses and cowboy boots. Her dad was a football player at the University of Alabama, and that's her as a little girl, and she loved Wonder Woman. Will was, again, the 3-sport athlete. He was the quarterback at his high school. He was a point guard and the pitcher. And so he ended up, I guess he was the best baseball player of all three. And he had a little sister named Taylor, and he also looked after her. This is the house where they were sheltering. They did what you're supposed to do in a storm, which is, as James Spann will tell you, go to the bottom floor, a room with no doors and windows, center of the house. And they were there with blankets and pillows, and they had dragged the TV, watching James Spann, to where they could see it. And they were doing exactly everything that they should have. What happened was a tree fell on the house and caused the house to pancake. This is Google Earth from above. You can see how many trees there were in the neighborhood. The top is before, the bottom is after, and you can see how it just looks again like a weed eater mowed it down. This is a closer version. The little marker's a little bit off, but it was the hardest hit house in the neighborhood. This is what it looked like from a crane. And for perspective, you can see an orange jacket and a red jacket, those are people. Imagine showing up as a first responder to this, and it's pitch black because the power has been knocked out. There's not much of a moon, and you've been told that 3 people might be under that house, and they might be alive or they might not be, and you need to find them. So imagine that. Danielle was getting ready to be the maid of honor in Michelle's wedding, which was about a week after the storm. And in telling their story, I wanted to really give them their own voice as much as possible, bring them to life on the page. And I did that through the help of Facebook. This was back when young people still used Facebook. It wasn't just for boomers and Gen X. But they were communicating on Facebook, and I was able to use that as dialogue. It's so hard. In narrative nonfiction, one of the hardest things to do when you're writing about a past event is to recreate, or not recreate, but to find dialogue that gives voice to people. It's very, very perishable. People often don't remember it. And this was timestamped. So I could tell you exactly when, for example, if you can't read it, Danielle said, "I woke up thinking someone had a strobe light in my room. Nah, just a bunch of lightning. I'm so tired of these stupid storms." And she wrote that in the morning round. And so I could tell you exactly what time she wrote that. And then actually, this was, still the morning round. Lauren and Danielle, who were roommates, sharing the same house just down the hallway from one another, they were talking on Facebook. And Lauren said, "Can you still use the microwave during a storm? Because I really want some oatmeal." And Danielle, who, true to form, was always looking out after others, said, "Once again, sirens are," or she says, "I think that might be okay. Just stand away from it in case of a power surge. LOL." So I was able to kind of show them relating to each other and talking to each other. And when she said, I see lightning in my room, based on when she wrote that, I could tell you exactly what was going on the radar. And then the family shared with me their phone records. And this allowed me, they're also timestamped, to share some of the last conversations between Michelle and Danielle. Michelle was at, I think, the University of Mississippi in Starkville, and Danielle was at the University of Alabama, and they were both hunkered down, weathering different supercells. And so they were talking, and I could tell, Danielle was known to be watching James Spann, and so when she said there's a huge tornado heading to downtown Tuscaloosa, I could tell you exactly what she was looking at, because it was posted on YouTube, and you could rewatch it. This is James Spann. So if you're not from Alabama, which I assume you're not, is anyone here from Alabama? No? Okay. Oh, yay. Do you know James Spann? Okay. So in his market, there's no one who doesn't know James Spann. He's like a celebrity weatherman. And the joke is that when he takes his jacket off, that's when things get serious and you need to run to the closet because you can see his suspenders. So if you can see suspenders and if he rolls his sleeves up, that's when it gets really serious. So what's special about him is that when he's not on the air warning people or delivering the weather, he drives to schools all over Alabama, often drives the back roads, and talks to middle school students about weather safety, because he knows that if parents are too blasé to follow the warning and get to a safe place, that the kids will shame their parents into the closet. And so people love him. He has his own bobblehead doll, and classes try to outdo each other by making a James Spann cake. So the story, after the tornado passes, you also get to see the story of some of the first responders who were incredible heroes. This is Adam Watley, who rescued Chelsea Thrash, who had been flung into a tree and her back was broken. This is where Chelsea was. In the bottom left-hand corner, that big mess of white debris, that was her apartment. And she was flung into the center of that apartment complex, and her back was shattered. She was paralyzed for a little while, but learned to walk. This is Pastor Wes from Smithville. So Pastor Wes was in Smithville Baptist Church with about 15 people and 3 dogs when an EF5, the largest of all tornadoes, came and flattened the church. The winds were so loud that they did not hear the church fall around them. They survived. And all that was left of the church was this window. It was unbroken. It was the only thing unbroken. And so they propped it up in the church and had church in the parking lot. And when I met Pastor Wes, I'll never forget, I just drove up to Smithville and was like, what's happened? And he said the most beautiful thing. He said, we do not grieve as those who have no hope. For the believer, the end of the life is not a period, it's a comma. And so I have a comma tattooed on the back of my neck, kind of in homage to Pastor Wes. This is Johnny Parker. He was a 15, going on 16, 2 days away from his 16th birthday, young aspiring meteorologist. He would wake up before school and look at actual professional radar systems and write little forecasts and text them to friends. He had like followers in this little text stream. And what's special about Johnny is he, weather weenies is what they call themselves, people who love weather. He was a weather weenie, but he has cerebral palsy, and so he has a speech impediment that would prevent him from being an on-air forecaster. He is smart as a whip, and if he's typing, you would never know he has a speech impediment, but something happens between his brain and his mouth that makes it very hard for him to speak. And so he found a way around that by using technology to text and email forecasts. And he was warning friends this morning. He knew this was going to be bad. And then he and his sister Chloe were in their house when an EF5 tornado hit it. Their mother, bottom right, Patty Parker, was the head of the United Way. And she was at work that day. And when she realized that there was a big storm coming through, she thought, I better head home. And she found herself, the book opens with a scene of her gripping her steering wheel, driving and chasing the tornado, which is headed straight for her family and her house. And when she gets to the point in the road where there's too much debris to keep driving, she gets out and runs in her heels. And she gets to her street, and she only knows it's her street because there's a pile of yellow bricks on the ground, and there used to be a yellow brick house on the corner. And she gets to her house, and it is only half there, and she screams for her family. And in her pocket or her purse is her phone, and on the phone is a text from Johnny saying, get to a safe place now. In the wake of this, what was so remarkable is that people, it was devastating. There was so much tragedy, there were so many sad stories, but people looked at the mess and found meaning. So here, this was an example of some of the messages I found everywhere. It says, God bless this mess. The Lord gives, the Lord take the way, blessed be the Lord. Again, Alabama is very religious, and people really leaned on their faith. It also inspired some really interesting community events, and who knows who Bo Jackson is? Bo Jackson, thank goodness. I talk to a lot of young people who don't know who he is, so if you don't, he's the ESPN's greatest athlete of all time. He was a professional football player and baseball player, MVP in both sports at the same time. He's from Alabama, and he lives in Chicago now, but when he saw this storm, he saw that the storm coverage disappeared from the news cycle because of Osama bin Laden and Joplin, and he thought, okay, I can do something to help. He's famous, and the press follows him wherever he goes, and so he decided to do a bike ride, a charity bike ride through Alabama, through all of the tornado-torn towns, because he knew the media would follow him, and if the media put on screen that these towns needed help, people would help. And that's exactly what happened. It was crazy. So this ride went on for 14 years, and the last one was just this year, and my son, stand up and wave, Austin, come on. I got to embarrass my teenage son. Hey, Austin! He's a cyclist, he's a mountain biker, but he was in a baby trailer the first time he did this ride. And he became like the smallest rider when he was 9, but he could never keep up with Bo and the pros. And we went back this year, and he was able to keep up with Bo and ride with the pros. So it was pretty neat. So if you want to read the story, it's on ESPN. But Bo recruited his friends, just Ken Griffey Jr., Peekaboo Street, Lance Armstrong, other people like that. And it became this beautiful community. And what was neat about it is that If you know crosstown rivalries or cross-state rivalries, Auburn fans and Alabama fans don't always get along, understatement. It brought together people from all walks of life, people who weren't cyclists, people who were not spandex-wearing roadies, and people came together across great divides. Even Alabama fans showed up for Bo's ride. Bo's from Auburn. Below is, on the left, that's Will's mom. So she came up and she volunteered, and that's a picture of Will. On the right, that's Lauren's mom. She is not a cyclist, but she rode twice. And it was really meaningful to them because people remembered and people kept helping. And for 14 years, after the signs of the storm were long gone, people kept coming together for this ride because it meant so much. Pastor Wes, this was his church afterwards. He rebuilt it, and his congregation grew even though the town shrank. And they put the window in the church as a reminder. This was the house that Danielle, Will, and Lauren were in. They rebuilt it. They planted memorial trees. That's what it looks like today. You can see how different the landscape looks. And they had a memorial, and it kept the old door of the old house. Michelle had a really hard decision to make. Do I go through with the wedding 7 days after I've just lost my maid of honor? And she decided that her family needed a reason to feel joy. And so she decided to go through with it. I just got to see Michelle on our visit. Michelle drove from Tennessee to say hi to us, and she's doing well and has 2 kids. Johnny Parker, still in touch with him. He got to meet James Spann, and James, it turns out, was trying to fix the weather system because 8 out of 10 warnings were for no tornado. The weather system was a little bit broken. There was false alarm rates. So they now have better warnings with more uncertainty. Johnny kind of went on to work in weather a little bit, and they named a street after him in Smithville just 2 years ago. So he just shared that with me. So of all the things that this book has done, it's 15 years old, and the fact that it's still in print makes me really happy. The fact that you're reading it or aware of it makes me really happy. But beyond the awards, it won a bunch of awards. What makes me proudest is that it's studied in classrooms in 5 states, in high school and college classes. Bottom left, that's the University of California, Irvine freshman comp. This professor found it in a library in LA and reached out to me and said, "Would you speak to my students?" I was like, "Of course I will." And for years now, I've been speaking to his students on Zoom. And we came up with this idea because we believe that stories are empathy machines. I said, "Why don't you offer them a optional extra credit assignment? And if they want, they can write a letter of empathy to the families of Danielle, Lauren, and Will." And they do. And the first year, I got to deliver it to Will's family on his birthday, and it meant so much to them. So if you have the idea that you might want to do this after reading the book, the Learning Lab has said, drop it off there, and we'll make sure it gets to them. And so that's a really neat kind of opportunity to connect with real people in a real story. I was just approached by a documentary film production crew out of London that wants to make a documentary about the storm. And they made this one called The Twister about Joplin. And so I'm hoping that some of the characters in the book will be in the documentary. So I don't think I'm going to be in it, but I'm connecting them, and that makes me really happy. And I always dedicate this to the mothers, although today it's to all mothers and all teachers. They taught me so much. One, they taught me that it's pretty hurtful to say that everything happens for a reason, because sometimes really horrible things happen for no good reason. But beautiful things still come from our brokenness, often in unexpected ways. The theme of the book and the theme of all my work really is the things that tear our world apart reveal what holds us together. And the best way to help feel better when you're going through something is to help someone else. I found this to be true when I went through my own life storms. And they do this by creating scholarships for their kids. Ashley, Lauren's mom, would do a random act of kindness on Lauren's birthday for every year she would have been alive. So stories keep memories alive. So one of the most important things they taught me was if you encounter someone, a friend who's been through something horrible, Often there's an outpouring of support and love at first, and then people feel awkward and don't know what to say and walk a wide arc around you in the Costco. And it's really important to keep asking. Ask them to tell a story. What was your favorite story about Lauren? What did Will say that would make you laugh? Because those stories keep those memories alive. So again, if you wanted to write them a letter, for them to know that their kids are remembered and known in Boise, Idaho would mean a whole lot to them. People always ask, what's next? So my next book, 8 years of research in, it's about the fight to save Idaho salmon from extinction, but it's gonna be my first-person book, and it's really told through the narrative vehicle of a mother-son journey from source to sea. So Austin's gonna be in it. So I wanna thank you so much for supporting readers. I'm really in love with this organization. I think it is incredible. Like literacy, stories can take you places. Books are the reason I do what I do. Tony Doerr, who emailed me before this, said, I'm sorry I can't be there. I think my wife's gonna be there, so I hope that if you're there, I can say hi. He said that Learning Lab is one of the leanest and most effective nonprofits I've ever seen, so you can feel great that your money's going to a good organization, and I'm sure it ripples out into the community in so many ways. And I want to also share, here's some ways to support writers. It's taken me a long time to learn how to ask for help. Journalism is kind of endangered right now. If you saw the Washington Post layoffs, I had 4 friends who were laid off, and they were some of the best in the business. 2 Pulitzer Prize winner/finalists, a woman who had been a war correspondent. They all lost their jobs. They were some of the best. So here are 10 things you can do, and most of them cost nothing. One is write a review. Goodreads, Amazon, publishers look at that, keeps the algorithm happy. It keeps other readers finding our books, other readers look at them. Tell a friend about our work. Word of mouth is powerful. Invite us to your book club. Book clubs are like Author Prozac. Buy our books from a local bookshop. Hey, Rediscovered, where are you? Invite one to your classroom. A lot of times you'll be surprised. Authors will Zoom in and speak and waive their speaker's fee because it's such a joy to speak with students. Support the Cabin. They support writers. I'm the Boise Writer in Residence, and I have 2 more free workshops coming up, so you can find that online. Subscribe to publications. That's how we need publications to publish our work so that we get paid. And offer a writing retreat space. One of my greatest gifts is that some friends in McCall have a house that kind of sits empty most of the time, and I go there and I've written 2 books there because as a working mom with a family, it's really hard to find uninterrupted time to get into the work. And number 2, tell someone who needs a keynote speaker. Shout out here to the best book club ever, and members Susie and Gretchen, who I think, where are you? Do you want to wave? Yay, there they are, they're over there. So they're the reason I'm here, because I think I spoke to their book club and I'm like, I'm new here, I don't know anyone. Please, help me find my audience, my people, and they're the reason I'm here. And then the number 1 reason is subscribe to a Substack. A lot of people don't know this, but it's sort of like an e-newsletter. It's like a mini magazine. It's direct-to-consumer model of publishing, and it ditches the social media algorithms that prevent us from being able to use Instagram and whatnot effectively. You can hear about our events. You can click on our links. Just clicking on a link is helping us because editors notice what gets read and what doesn't. So just by opening a newsletter and clicking on a link and sending some traffic to the places we write for, that's a huge help, believe it or not. If you choose to subscribe, it's free, but if you choose to subscribe, that helps a ton. If everyone in this room subscribed for $5 a month, that would be like a mid-level writer's salary. So you could make a big difference. But really, give to the Learning Lab first. And then, so actually finished on time, yay. Please keep in touch. If you have a book club or a class, I'm happy to speak. I love talking to readers. I teach a lot, so if you want to, find my Substack, I post when I'm teaching. There's a writing retreat in Idaho called the Sawtooth Writers Retreat that we put on to give other writers a chance to build community and escape and think just about writing and work on it. And then lastly, if you want to send a letter to the families, even if they just get a couple, it would mean a whole lot to them and let them know that their story matters. So thank you so much for your support of this organization. Thanks for being readers, and thanks for being my hometown. Now, lastly, I want to do something for the families of Danielle and Will and Lauren. I want to do a little video, and y'all need to participate. or I invite you to participate, you don't have to. And so I want to do two things. One is I want you to just say what stands in a storm, and then we're going to give them a roll tide. Does anyone know? So roll tide goes, roll tide, and it has to be tide, not tide. So what stands in a storm? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. What stands in a storm? Okay, roll tide. 1, 2, 3. Roll tide. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. We have Rediscovered books in the lobby. They have Kim's books for purchase, and you can have her sign your book. And let's check the thermometer one last time. Amazing. Thank you so much. We are deeply grateful for the generosity in this room. This matters, and thank you for believing in this work. We appreciate all of you. Take care, and we will see you hopefully next year on February 19th, 2027. Thank you.